Homeless, naked, and alone, she found shelter in a human's heart. The rain fell in acidic sheets across the industrial sector of Kepler Station, each droplet carrying the bitter taste of processed atmosphere and recycled despair. Zara pressed herself deeper into the narrow alcove between two towering waste processors, her blue-tinged skin already showing the telltale burns of prolonged exposure to the corrosive precipitation. Her people, the Villani, were not built for such harsh conditions. Their homeworld had been a paradise of gentle breezes and crystal-clear waters. That was before the consortium came. 3 cycles had passed since the corporate consortium had acquired Velen Prime for its rare mineral deposits, displacing millions of her people across the galaxy as indentured laborers. Zara had managed to escape the transport ships, but freedom had proven to be just another kind of prison. No identification papers, no credits, no legal status. She was a ghost, haunting the dark corners of civilized space. The sound of heavy boots splashing through puddles made her shrink further into the shadows. Security patrols had been increasing lately, and non-humans without proper documentation were either shipped off to labor camps or simply disappeared. She held her breath as the footsteps grew closer, her large violet eyes tracking the beam of a flashlight as it swept across the alley. "Hey there!" The voice was gentle, unexpected. Zara's heart hammered against her ribs as she realized the beam had found her. But instead of the harsh command she expected, the human voice carried something she hadn't heard in months: genuine concern. "Are you hurt?" The figure behind the light lowered the beam, revealing a middle-aged human man in a maintenance worker's coveralls. His weathered face showed lines of fatigue, but his brown eyes held warmth that seemed impossible in this cold, industrial wasteland. "Please," Zara whispered in her accented standard, "I am not making trouble." The human, his name tag read Marcus Chen, crouched down to her level, careful not to invade her space. "Nobody said you were making trouble, but you can't stay out here in this rain. It'll eat right through your skin." Zara's translator implant struggled with some of his words, but his tone transcended language barriers. Still, trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. "I have nowhere else." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. Then he did something that would have been unthinkable to most species in the galaxy. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his own rain jacket, extending it toward her. "Put this on. There's a shelter not far from here." "I cannot pay," Zara said, even as her shivering hands reached for the jacket. "Did I ask you to pay?" The question hung in the acidic air between them. In Zara's experience, every kindness came with a price. Every gesture of help was a transaction waiting to be collected. But Marcus simply waited, rain streaming down his face, until she took the jacket. The shelter was a small maintenance bay that Marcus had converted into a makeshift living space. It wasn't much: a cot, a small heating unit, some basic supplies, but to Zara, it might as well have been a palace. Marcus gave her a towel and some clean clothes, then busied himself making what he called coffee on a portable heating element. "Why?" Zara finally asked, as she wrapped her hands around the warm mug he offered her. Marcus settled into the single chair across from her cot. "Why what?" "Why help me? Your species has no obligation to mine. We are competitors for resources, yes?" A sad smile crossed Marcus's face. "That's what they want us to think, isn't it? That there's not enough to go around, that we have to fight each other for scraps while they take everything else." He gestured around the small space. "This isn't much, but it's mine. And right now, it's yours too, for as long as you need it." Over the following weeks, Marcus taught Zara about human resilience in ways that no xenobiologist could have cataloged. He showed her how humans found hope in the smallest things: A shared meal, a warm place to sleep, the simple act of being seen as a person rather than a problem to be solved. Marcus worked double shifts to bring her food and supplies, never asking for anything in return. He helped her practice her standard, shared stories of Earth's history, and listened as she told him about Valen Prime's floating cities and crystal gardens. When security sweeps intensified, he created hiding places and alternate routes. When she fell ill from malnutrition, he risked his job to steal medical supplies from the station's clinic. "Why do you do this?" she asked him one night, as he tended to the infected cuts on her feet. "Your supervisors suspect. They could terminate your employment." Marcus carefully applied antiseptic to her wounds, his touch impossibly gentle for such work-worn hands. "You know what I learned about humans during the resource wars back on Earth?" Zara shook her head. "We're at our best when we're at our worst. When everything's falling apart, when the systems fail, when the powerful abandon us, that's when we remember what really matters. Not profit margins or corporate efficiency ratings, just taking care of each other." He met her eyes with that steady, warm gaze that had become her anchor in the storm. "Besides, you're not just some random alien to me anymore. You're Zara. You like your coffee sweet, you hum when you're nervous, and you have a laugh that could light up this whole damn station. Your family." Family. The word hit her like a physical blow. The concept existed among her people, but it was biological, structured, formal. This human had redefined it entirely. Family as choice, as commitment, as the decision to care for someone simply because they needed caring for. 3 months later, when the Underground Railroad, a network of human sympathizers, managed to secure Zara passage to a colony world where Vellani refugees were welcome, she stood in the doorway of Marcus's shelter one last time. "I cannot repay this debt," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Marcus shook his head, pulling her into one of those human embraces that still amazed her with their warmth and strength. "There's no debt, kiddo. There's just people looking out for people." As her transport lifted off from Kepler Station, Zara pressed her face to the viewport and watched the industrial lights grow smaller below. She understood now why the galaxy's older species both feared and grudgingly respected humanity. It wasn't their technology or their aggression that made them formidable. It was their capacity to see a shivering stranger in an alley and think not problem or opportunity, but simply person who needs help. And in a universe that seemed determined to pit species against species, that might be the most radical act of all. Years later, when Zara had built a new life on New Valen, she would establish the Marcus Chen Foundation, a network dedicated to helping displaced beings across the galaxy. The Foundation's motto, inscribed in dozens of languages on every shelter, they built, was simple. There's just people looking out for people. It was, she had learned, the most human thing of all.